Imagine yourself in the year 1498, hearing about a strange fleet of ships, led by a man named Vasco da Gama, landing on the shores of Calicut, India. This wasn't just another day in history. This was the dawn of the Age of Discovery, a time when brave explorers dared to venture beyond what was known, driven by a thirst for knowledge, wealth, and power. The Portuguese, a small but ambitious nation, were at the forefront of these maritime explorations. Their goal? To find a direct sea route to the spices of India, bypassing the dangerous and expensive overland routes controlled by the Ottomans. The man entrusted with this mission was Vasco da Gama, a fearless navigator who would become the first European to reach India by sea. As the Portuguese stepped foot on Indian soil, little did anyone know, it marked the beginning of a new era. The arrival of the Portuguese in India was no ordinary event. It set the stage for a period of intense power struggle and transformation. Let's travel back in time to the early 16th century. The year is 1500, and a new player has entered the Indian scene, the Portuguese. Their arrival heralded the beginning of an era of European colonialism, but before they could make a mark, they had to establish their presence. Their first step? Setting up a factory in Cochin, the bustling port city on the southwest coast of India. The Portuguese, led by Pedro Álvares Cabral, were welcomed by the ruler of Cochin, who was seeking allies to counter the dominant Zamorin of Calicut. This event marked the establishment of the first-ever Portuguese factory in India, a significant milestone in their journey. Fast forward a few years to the year 1511, the Portuguese, under the leadership of Afonso de Albuquerque, captured Goa from the Sultan of Bijapur. Goa, with its strategic location and natural harbors, soon became the epicenter of Portuguese operations in India. From there, the Portuguese influence expanded along the western coast of India. They established a series of fortified trading posts, effectively creating a monopoly over the lucrative spice trade. But this expansion wasn't without resistance. The Portuguese often found themselves in conflicts with local powers, including the mighty sultanates and the formidable Vijayanagara Empire. Despite the odds, the Portuguese managed to hold on to their territories. They used a mix of diplomacy and military force, playing the local powers against each other, all while consolidating their position. Their aggressive pursuit of trade monopolies, coupled with their naval supremacy, gave them a firm grasp over the region's commerce. In the midst of all the chaos and upheaval, the Portuguese managed to secure a strong foothold in the Indian subcontinent. Their story, however, was far from over. The rise of their power was just the beginning of a long and tumultuous saga that would forever change the course of Indian history. The passage of time, however, brought with it challenges that the Portuguese were ill-prepared to handle. As the years rolled by, the once formidable Portuguese stronghold in India began to waver. The 17th century heralded the arrival of new European powers on the Indian subcontinent. The Dutch, English, and French, all armed with a thirst for trade and territorial expansion, posed a significant threat to the Portuguese dominion. This competition led to a gradual erosion of Portuguese influence and power. The Dutch, for instance, were quick to establish their foothold, focusing primarily on the spice trade. They wrested control of key trading ports that had previously been under Portuguese rule. This was a significant blow to the Portuguese, as these ports were vital lifelines for their trade. The English and the French, on the other hand, were more interested in the lucrative textile trade. They established their outposts along the Coromandel and Malabar coasts, further constricting the Portuguese territory. The English, in particular, were relentless. Their East India Company grew from a mere trading entity into a powerful colonial force. Despite their best efforts, the Portuguese could not hold off these competing powers. Their once thriving trade and territorial control dwindled. The final blow came in the mid-20th century. In 1961, after 450 years of rule, the Portuguese were finally ousted from their last stronghold in India, Goa. The liberation of Goa marked the end of Portuguese rule in India. But the departure of the Portuguese did not mean the erasure of their influence. They left behind a rich tapestry of cultural, architectural, and historical imprints. Portuguese words found their way into local languages, and their architectural style influenced local buildings. The infusion of their cuisine into Indian food culture gave rise to an array of delectable dishes. Even though the Portuguese era came to an end, it left an indelible mark on Indian history, culture, and architecture that continues to be felt today. The journey from Vasco da Gama's arrival to the liberation of Goa is a rich tapestry of history, filled with intriguing twists and turns. Our voyage into the past began with the first Portuguese footprints on Indian soil, marking the dawn of an era that would reshape the course of history. This era saw the meteoric rise of the Portuguese as they established a stronghold in the Indian subcontinent, wielding power, influence, and leaving an indelible mark on the culture, architecture, and cuisine of the region. However, like all empires, this one too had its fall. The decline of the Portuguese power was inevitable, yet the echoes of their reign lingered, their legacy imprinted in the fabric of India. And so, we find ourselves at the end of this journey, having traversed the highs and lows of a remarkable epoch. The saga of the Portuguese in India, a tale of exploration, ambition, and legacy, remains a fascinating chapter in the annals of world history.
हमारे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कीजिए और साथ ही बेल आइकन दबाएं, जिससे समय पर नोटिफिकेशन आपको मिलती रहे। आपका एक लाइक हमें प्रोत्साहित करता है जिससे कि हम नई वीडियो बनाएं। थैंक्स फॉर योर सपोर्ट।